Hi, Scotty. Welcome to my live. I'm Olive Von Top, local burlesque performer and empowerment coach. And my internet's not working. Because why would it? Why would it? They came yesterday to fix it, and here we are. So, welcome to my live at 8:05. It is 8:06, but whatevs. So today we're talking about thought work, and I thought it would just be a good idea to go over what I mean by thought work and sort of the model that I use with coaching. I am rocking a pretty awesome headache, so I'm going to try and keep it short. Um, so, thought work. The principle that I work from is a model used by many people. I didn't come up with it, but it's basically that something happens in your life, we'll call it an event, um, and you have a belief about this event. So the event is like something non subjective. It's like everybody can agree that this thing happened. Your opinion or interpretation of it is your belief. And then that your beliefs or thoughts create your emotions. And your emotions drive your actions in your life. And then your actions create your life and your outcome. So everything we do or don't do, action or inaction, is to create or avoid a feeling. So many of us, this will be familiar to some people, many of us spend our lives, well, most of us spend our lives trying to either feel or not feel certain feelings. So I believe that we have not done work, hi Sue, as enough work as a society in terms of being in our emotions. This is something I've learned about myself in the last few years, and I've been working on and working with people on as well. We are really afraid of emotions, so we don't want to feel it. We don't want to feel uncomfortable. We're also very adverse to discomfort in so many ways. That's a whole nother topic, and I've talked about it before. But again, when we can become more comfortable with being uncomfortable, we can do so many more things in our lives. It's a really powerful thing. But emotions are really just uncomfortable feelings. They're actually like sensations in our bodies. This is not new to anyone who's worked with me or who's like watched some of my other lives, but I know I talk about these concepts in lives, and I just thought I'd go over the principles of it. What was I saying? So yes, emotions are essentially just sensations in our body. So part of the work is being willing to feel them, and being aware of what is happening in our body as we feel the emotions. So a lot of times what happens is we have a thought about something, and there's conscious and unconscious thoughts. So a lot of times, myself included, but a lot of clients will have like a cognitive dissonance where like your thought and action don't match. Like a lot of us understand consciously, like I'm worthy. I get that on a conscious level, but subconsciously I have these deep ingrained beliefs that are driving the bus. And they are the ones that I'm not even aware that I'm having them half the time. And then they're creating feelings. So I have a thought that like, I should apply for that job. That's my thought. And then my counter thought is, hi, my counter thought to that is, yeah, but I'm totally unqualified or I'll never get it. And then, I might have a stream of other thoughts that are like, I'll never get it because I didn't do this education, or like I'm not good enough, I'm not qualified enough, I'm not smart enough, I'm never gonna amount to anything. Here I am. Nobody's ever gonna want to be with me. I'm gonna die alone. Like just from like applying to the job. And you might not be aware of all those thoughts. That might be such a go-to thought. It's like a neuron that's a pathway that is formed. It's just like um, your go-to subconscious thought might be like, I'm not good enough. And you're not thinking that consciously. You're just thinking like, oh, I'll apply for this job. And then all of a sudden you're feeling like various feelings, perhaps of like anxiety or maybe shame, sadness, frustration. And we may not even know why we're having those feelings. We may not even identify those feelings. Most of the time we don't. Often we don't identify those feelings. We just have these feelings that come up. Think, I want to apply to this job. Do. I'll think about applying to it. I'll go do something. I have all these emotions come up, and then all of a sudden I want to not feel those emotions. And all of a sudden I don't understand why, but I'm turning to all of these coping mechanisms that I have, that I've used to feel or to not feel an emotion. So like I don't want to feel anxious or angry or whatever, so I will, do my numbing or coping things. Like I'll scroll mindlessly on Instagram, which could create all kinds of other thoughts and emotions. Or I'll comfort eat, or I'll binge watch something, or I'll buy something on Amazon, whatever it is, because we are trying to not feel that thing. Is everyone with me so far? So we have the thought, we have a bunch of subconscious thoughts, we're not aware of it, creates an emotion in us. We're like, ew, emotion, discomfort, don't like it, do the thing. And then we're like, I don't understand why my life is like this. Like I want to make changes in it, and I think I will apply for this job, or I applied for these jobs, but nothing's changed. So first of all, your brain is always trying to prove itself right. So we're like writing scripts and proving living it out, right? Like if you believe that you're not going to get the job because you're not qualified, like you're not going to get the job, right? If you believe that you're not worthy, you're going to end up with people that treat you like you're not enough. And that's going to make sense to you. And you'll be like, see, supports my worldview. Again, not necessarily consciously, but the brain is always going to try to do things that, sorry, distracted by some of the comments. Your brain is always going to try and do things that prove itself right. So it's going to be the most efficient it can be. So where was I going with this? Oh, good timing anyway, because my internet cut out on my Instagram. Hopefully you're back. So you have this thought, you feel really shitty about, you have all these feelings that come up, and then you have all these actions to try to feel or not feel a feeling. Like you want to feel a different feeling, so you're going to like go do something else. I am going to not feel shitty. I'm not going to feel anxiety. I just want to feel like some pleasure in my brain. So I'm going to eat a bunch of cookies or whatever. And then we don't understand why our lives are the way they are. And a lot of times what we do is we try to make changes in our lives in the action line. So, I'm going to stop like binge eating, or I'm going to stop scrolling on Instagram, but we're not aware of what the thoughts are that are causing us to do that. So we're not making any change from the thought line or the belief line. We're making it from the action line. So, if we want to make changes, then we're like, okay, I'm going to set a timer on how long I can be on Instagram. I'm going to delete the app. I'm going to whatever. I'm only going to follow these types of people. I don't know. It's not maybe the best example, but it doesn't matter. But we don't address the thought that is happening when we go to this like binging behavior because we want to feel a certain way. Then the thoughts are still there. and we'll find other ways of avoiding the feeling, if that makes sense. So going back to feeling the feeling, we want to, part of the work is to not be afraid of feeling feelings, to just acknowledge that there's sensations in our bodies and to be willing to feel it. So a lot of the work that I do with people is like, first of all, we do a lot of identifying of thoughts. So you do like a thought work or a thought dump where you just like write down all your thoughts about this particular thing we're working on, and like just stream of consciousness. Doesn't matter what they are, because it's going to be very revealing for you. And then just some feelings that are going to come up, which can be really hard for some of us to identify. And when that happens, we sit with the feeling. So I want to be explicit that the idea is not like toxic positivity where we're like, ooh, bad thought, I'm going to think something positive. Like, oh, there's a thought I didn't know I was having. What is that bringing up for me? I think that's anxiety. What does anxiety feel like in my body? Okay, I'm just going to allow myself to feel anxiety. Anxiety is like a tightness in my stomach, and, you know, I might get some like tightening in my chest, or maybe some like heat in my neck, whatever it is. And I'm not going back to the thought that's causing it. I'm being present in my body with the sensation. And I'm allowing that sensation to move through my body. And a lot of times what happens when we give it a bit more time and attention is that it starts to lessen. And part of the purpose of doing this is so that we get used to knowing what our bodies, what emotions are like in our bodies, what our body does, identifying emotions, and also start getting used to feeling them and being like, that wasn't so bad. It didn't kill me. Sometimes it feels like feelings will, and sometimes feelings feel so awful, so awful. But they really, when we break them down, they're just feelings. They're just things happening in our bodies, and we can deal with that. And if we're willing to deal with or willing to feel any sort of feeling or emotion, then we're able to do a lot more in our lives, and that will allow us to show up in ways that we have never showed up before, and change habits or change things in our action lines because we're willing to feel the feelings and we're not scared of the thoughts when they come up. And then eventually we start implementing new thoughts that are more helpful or more directed to get us towards our goals. So, and sometimes we have to start really small. Like, maybe you don't think you're, the greatest person alive or the most skilled person for that job, but maybe we can start with like, I'm human and I like make mistakes, or it's okay if I fail, or like breaking down what failure means, and that like, again, I'm allowed to be a human. I'm allowed to make mistakes. I don't need to be perfect. And then working up from there to like the positive things that you are and what you have to offer. And, there's all kinds of activities and exercises of like visualizing the person that you are in the job and what you had to be thinking in order to get there. And that's a whole nother exercise. But I think that's enough for today. So that's loosely what we're doing in coaching, what I do in coaching with people and with myself. So we identify our thoughts. We spend a lot of time identifying our thoughts. We spend time identifying our feelings and feeling them in our bodies, and seeing how those feelings cause our actions or inactions, where we're trying to feel or not feel an emotion, and how that impacts our lives. And when we want to make changes in our lives, we start from the thought line. What do I need to be thinking in order to be feeling that way, in order to be doing that thing? Let me know if that makes sense. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer. And I thank you for showing up. I am Olive on Top, burlesque performer and empowerment coach. I don't think I said that.